we talking about practice. Not a game. We talking about practice.
Now, back to the After Practice podcast with Lake Lewis.
Welcome, everybody, to another After Practice podcast. Appreciate you joining me as always. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about. I'm just getting back from Indianapolis, Indiana, where I was at the NFL Combine. And first and foremost, want to shout out the good people over at NFL Communications, NFL Media. Made my time, just a wonderful time, and we got a lot accomplished. Also want to shout out, and I'm sure you can see here in the video if you're watching this and not just listening to it in the audio form, the good people over at Noble. They did a great job with the players, and they gifted myself with a hoodie and a couple shirts and some shorts. So greatly appreciate them as well. Of course, you can follow me on social media at Lake Lewis Jr. now on all platforms. That's right, folks. I got the change on Twitter, or X as it's formerly known as, which was Twitter. Now it's X. But it's Lake Lewis Jr. now on X, Instagram, and Facebook. And then, of course, you can follow us at sportsjourney.com. Check out all the great work of myself and some of my colleagues do a wonderful job covering other teams and other sports. And then, of course, you can subscribe to this podcast via Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, pretty much any major podcast carrier. It's there. And then, of course, if you're watching this right now, what's up? But you can subscribe and watch this on YouTube through the Sports Journey channel. So, look, we've got a lot to talk about because the past week at the NFL Combine, I wanted to say this to everybody out there, that this was just one of those occasions that, I've been covering the Combine for years. And this might be the first year where I actually had some wow factor, like where I literally was watching these young men, run and catch and do all the drills that they do. And I literally was in wow of some of these guys because each year the times get faster, the players get bigger and stronger. But it just, I've never seen it come together in every facet the way it did this year. And I'm not making this stuff up, folks. I think some guys, may have come into the Combine, potential third round players that may have elevated themselves to second rounders. Maybe there's one or two that put themselves clearly in the first round because of their performances. And that's the stuff of legends. That's the stuff that happens. Sometimes the combines can overpower the tape. And, I'm a firm believer that what you see on tape from what these guys did on every Saturday, it doesn't lie. So if a guy dominated in a Power 5 conference every Saturday, more than likely they're an NFL caliber player, okay? But there's some guys that come from schools that may be under the radar, that may not get the same airtime as some of these Power 5 schools, and they enhance their play. And then there's some guys that are at Power 5 schools that may get lost in, how do I say this? They get lost with some of their other teammates on that school who were already looked at as surefire pro players. I think we saw a couple of guys that really enhanced their draft status. Some of them came from Power 5, some of them didn't. I think a guy from my alma mater, Chop Robinson, the 40-yard dash that he ran, a 4.440, literally, I was sitting right there and so when we're in the stadium, we don't see the times that you see if you're watching on television. So we don't know if a guy ran a 4.4 whatever. So, shout out to my guy, Cortland, who was sitting right next to me, and he had a stopwatch and he literally, was clocking these guys, and he was pretty dead on. And when he showed me what Chop Robinson ran, I said, there's no way he ran that. I said, maybe your finger was a little slow. And he said, no, man, I'm telling you, it's going to be close to that. And I think when it came up a 4.49, I'm like, this is a edge rusher that's running that. This is a guy that, look, I'm a Penn State guy. You guys know that. So when I see him, I see similarities to Micah Parsons. Micah Parsons in college was a linebacker, was an edge rusher, was basically a Swiss Army knife. He did it all. And when he got to Dallas, Dan Quinn, who just happens now to be the Washington Commanders head coach, really utilized him in ways that, most people didn't see him doing when he got to the NFL. He hit him in different packages. He rushed him off the edge. He put him in the middle of the field, as a little middle linebacker at times. And, he even dropped him back in coverage at times. So I looked at a guy like Chop Robinson as a potential player that could do that at the next level based on how fast and twitchy he is. We all knew that this guy was a twitchy guy coming around the edge, but I don't know people thought that he was going to be this fast. So I think he put himself, if not early second round, clearly he put himself as a late first rounder at worst. Okay. So I think that this guy really enhanced himself. Another guy that I think really enhanced himself was J.J. McCarthy. I think the fact that Caleb Williams, Drake May, Jaden Daniels, the fact that they didn't throw, it opened the door for Michael Penix, who fared well as well. For Michael Penix, Joe Milton out of Tennessee, and then J.J. McCarthy, of course. Bo Nix. I think that there were guys that, excelled with not having those other three. They put their names in the limelight. And I think J.J. McCarthy put himself in a position to, people were already saying that he could be a second rounder. He could possibly be the fourth quarterback taken. Depending on the system, depending on the coach, he could have put himself in a higher position than that. I mean, there's some people grumbling after his performance at the combine that could he be the third quarterback taken? I don't think he will be the third quarterback taken. I think he'll be the fourth quarterback taken. But I think the question is, will that be in the mid-first round? And my answer to that is yes. If you're a team like the Denver Broncos and he's sitting right there for you, you take him. I mean, because you're not going to come back with Russell Wilson. So this is what you do. So in my opinion, that's the guy you take. So look, folks, there was a lot of good stuff there. I mean, just the atmosphere in Indianapolis this past week was festive. I was a little disappointed with one thing. It had nothing to do with any particular person or outlet or venue. I was upset because I looked at the weather and it said it was going to be in the 60s all week. And, the day I flew in on Tuesday was supposed to be 69 degrees. Well, it was 39 degrees when I got in. And when I got in, it was early morning Wednesday. So it was 39 degrees and the temperature dropped even lower. It was like 32 for most of the day. The wind chill made it seem like single digits. It was absolutely frigid. And people were like, they were caught off guard because I wasn't the only one that bought a blazer and a casual jacket. It was cold. So a lot of people had to go across the street to the mall, to make life better for them. So that was the only thing that I would say I was upset with as far as the combine in general. Again, what are your thoughts? What did you think of the combine? What did you think of some of the performances? Were you surprised? Were you wowed? Were you disappointed? You can obviously let me know. You can email me. I'm going to give you my direct email. And everyone out there, please email me. Let me know your thoughts. LakeLewisJr@gmail.com. I'm going to give it to you the best way. Or you can email me at LakeLewisJr@sportsjourney.com. Also, I want to shout out some people who are making this show possible. Some of my good friends who, have spent some good money to make life easier for me. And I greatly, greatly appreciate them. I want to start off with literally something that I think is revolutionary and it's getting ready to change the way things are done. And it's Thermopack. They have an innovative mouth guard that actually changes colors, tells you your body heat. And I think for some of the larger guys that we've seen out there, especially some of the big guys that we saw at the combine, this is a thing that you would want. Not only that, does it change colors to let you know your body temperature, but it also has a anti-shock, technology in the mouth guard that will help prevent concussions. So I'm kind of getting 2 for 1 with this mouth guard, and they're doing a wonderful job. And then, of course, my good friends over at Sideline Prep. Obviously I'm biased about Sideline Prep. You have to look that up to see why. But they're doing an outstanding job of turning would-be professional cheerleaders into professional cheerleaders. So if you feel like you want to try out for a pro team and you need to know the methods and routines and all those good things and just get some good quality life advice on how to do it, contact the good folks over at sidelineprep.com. We also have Chill Skins, and Chill Skins doing an outstanding job. They have a unique technology as well, where they have cooling towels as well as cooling headbands, and all you have to do is put water on it. And I'm telling you, I use these things throughout training camp over the past few years, and they really do work. I don't care how hot it is. If you cool off one of these towels or headbands, you will stay cool for several hours. So it definitely was a blessing in disguise. And I was handing those things out to a lot of my colleagues at training camp, so they will vouch for it as well. And then, of course, we've got another new sponsor coming on with us. And, we'll talk about them a little bit later on, but they've just, really blew my socks off as far as, the supplements that they have. And, I'm in my workout mode now. I'm doing that quite a bit. And they've got some drinks, some vitamin drinks and supplement drinks that are really good. I mean, I got to kind of have to stop myself from drinking them because you're only supposed to drink a certain amount. But I could literally drink a full bottle of these things. That's how good they are. You don't even know that these things have any kind of vitamins and medicines or anything in it. It's really good stuff. So we'll talk about them a little bit later on. Who was the guy that you were probably most disappointed with at the combine, that didn't perform? I think a lot of people are probably going to say Caleb Williams from USC, former Heisman Trophy winning quarterback, who's the consensus #1 pick in the draft. Jaden Daniels, this year's Heisman Trophy winner from LSU, didn't throw, but all of these guys, including Drake May, who I'm getting ready to mention right now, they all spoke to us, as far as their interviews. And each one of these guys was outstanding in their interviews. I mean, I really walked away feeling impressed that all three of these guys were just mature beyond their years. You can clearly pick up the leadership vibe off of them as well. I will say this. I thought Caleb Williams was definitely an eclectic guy, and I mean that sincerely. His intelligence just jumped off the board. I mean, you can see that this guy's a bright guy. He's very more of a studious type of guy. You talk to him, and you don't feel like you're talking to a 21, 22-year-old at all. I mean, this guy, you feel like you're talking to like an older uncle or something like that. I mean, he's really an intelligent guy with a great game to match. So for me, unless the Bears trade out of that position, which I don't see them doing, I really don't, I think that, Caleb Williams definitely will be a Chicago Bear. And the question is going to be, what are the Bears going to do with him? Are they going to, are they literally going to, build around him? Are they going to give him all the tools that he's going to need to be successful at the next level? Because the Bears have a history of not doing that. They're getting ready to more than likely step away and walk away from Justin Fields, who, last year was the first time they gave him really any kind of viable weapons. And you saw what he did. He had his best season of his pro career. And that's called maturation, of him getting better and knowing what to do with defenses and different schemes. But I also think because he had weapons around him, you got a chance to see more of what his game could be like. I've already proposed out there that if I'm the Chicago Bears, me personally, I would trade out of the position. I would trade with another team in the top 10. And we already have, and I say we as if I'm a Bear, you would have the 9th pick already that you inherited in last year's fleecing of the Carolina Panthers to get their pick. So Chicago has the 9th pick already. If you trade back with a team, let's say Washington, you're going to inherit a boatload of picks. If you trade back with, say, New England, you can inherit some picks. You trade with Atlanta, you drop down a little bit in the draft in the first round, but you're still going to be in the top 10. So you could have 2 top 10 picks. And depending on where you are, you could walk out of that top 10 with, say, Marvin Harrison Jr. out of Ohio State, or you can get the kid Bowers, from Georgia. And I'm telling you right now, if Chicago kept Justin Fields to pair up with DJ Moore, who's already there, with Cole Kmet, your tight end who's already there, really good young tight end, and then you pair them up with a Marvin Harrison Jr. on the other side of DJ Moore, and you get a tight end in Bowers, I'm telling you right now, they're ready to compete for that division. I think it would literally be perhaps one of the best divisions in football because Detroit Lions are already there. They had a great run. They're going to be just as good this year, I think. And then, of course, the Green Bay Packers probably should have beat the 49ers who were in the Super Bowl. They didn't. But I think Jordan Love and Matt LaFleur and that crew, I think that they're primed to, be one of the best teams in the NFC. So if Chicago were to wheel and deal and do some of those things, they could be right there with these guys. And now you're looking at Minnesota. What are they going to do with Kirk Cousins? Are they going to bring him back? Are they going to let him walk? I'm predicting they're going to re-sign Kirk Cousins. I truly feel like that's the best thing for them at this point. They still could draft a guy, maybe a Bo Nix, in the second round, and have him be groomed outside of Kirk Cousins. So that's what I would do if I were Chicago. But it looks like Chicago is going to take Caleb Williams. And now the question is going to boil down to Washington at number 2. Do you trade out of that position? I think a lot of people think that might not be a bad look. Or if you keep the second pick, who do you take? Do you take Jaden Daniels from LSU or do you take Drake May from North Carolina? Or do you just go the tackle route and take Olu Fashanu from my school, from Penn State, left tackle, young, really dynamic left tackle? Or do you take the big man, Joe Alt from Notre Dame? He's a tackle. Lots of variables that Washington could do. And clearly we've got a lot of time to talk about it. We've got like another month and a half to really dissect what they're going to do. I think walking out of the draft for Washington, they can't go wrong because they're a team that needs a lot of things to be done. So whoever you get at number 2, if you keep the pick, you're going to get a really good football player. If you trade out of it, you're going to get a boatload of picks to trade out. You can use that to still grab some really good football players. And I think, like I said, from what we saw at the NFL Combine this past week with some of these guys that really, brought their name up, I think that the Washington Commanders are going to be sitting really good no matter what. As always, folks, remember, you can follow me on social media at Lake Lewis Jr. on all social media formats. And of course, we're starting to open up the emails. So if you want to email me, your thoughts and any questions on the next podcast, which will be on Wednesday. And we've got some great guests coming up on Wednesday. So you definitely want to stick around and watch it. I'm not going to tell you who, because you know me, I want to surprise you. But Wednesday is going to be a good day for this podcast. So as always, folks, definitely greatly appreciate you coming on with us for about 20 minutes or so. We try to make it real quick and sweet for you. Not too much, not too long. Give you some great information. As always, greatly appreciate you checking me out. And be safe, and we'll check you out on Wednesday.